Good morning, viewer. Welcome to our today is our 73rd Republic Day. In that 73rd year of our Constitution, how many of the concerns in it will we rectify? The framers of the Constitution and member of Parliament had highlighted the concern in our founding document, many of which were rejected during its framing. That took almost 3 years and it came into effect on January 26, 1950. Space entrepreneur Elon Musk would have loved Constituent Assembly members H.B. Kamath and Naziruddin Ahmed. Both of them flagged the issue of interplanetary travel during the drafting of the Constitution. On August 31st, 1949, the Constituent Assembly was discussing the subject to be included in the Union list, legislating on which would fall exclusively in the domain of the central government. Kamath suggested including interplanetary travel in the Union list. His colleagues laughed at his amendment, but Kamath pressed on. He reasoned, I dare say, when the earth becomes more and more populated and congested, and when science makes further advance, people may start colonizing the moon or some of the other thinly populated planets of the solar system. The assembly rejected the amendments of both Kamath and Ahmed. It took the Constituent Assembly almost 3 years to draft the Constitution, partly because its members submitted around 7,600 amendments to the draft Constitution. Of these, around 2,400 were moved on the Assembly floor by Kamath, Professor K.T. Shaw, Sibalal Saxena, and Pandit Hridaynath Kunjru, among others. Most of these did not make it into the Constitution, some because the suggestion could not bring the members together on matters like calling the country the United States of India or the Union of Indian Socialistic Republics, other because the Assembly and Parliament did not realize the gravity of their actions. Two current issues resonating during the framing of the Constitution and its subsequent amendment. The Constitution gives the government the power to convene the legislature. It was similar to a provision before independence. During the debate in the Constituent Assembly, B.R. Ambedkar argued that under colonial rule, the purpose of this provision was to summon the legislature only to collect revenue and prevent it from scrutinizing the government. Some members were apprehensive that the framing of the constitutional article might result in the legislature not being convened enough. Ambedkar had replied, we thought, and personally, I also think that the atmosphere has completely changed, and I do not think any executive would hereafter be capable of showing this kind of callous conduct towards the legislature. Shah thought that Parliament should sit throughout the year with breaks in between. Others wanted Parliament to sit for longer duration and gave examples of the British and American legislature meeting for more than 100 days in a year. Shah also wanted the presiding officer of the two houses to be empowered to convene parliamentary in certain circumstances. But these suggestions were not accepted by the Constituent Assembly. Last year, our parliament met for 59 days. Governors convened legislature in states on the same lines as parliament. In its 5-year term, the outgoing Vidhan Sabha in Uttar Pradesh, the largest in the country, met for an average of 21 days and Punjab average 16 days. In poll-bounded state, the issue of defections cannot be far behind. In 1985, the Parliament amendment the Constitution to prevent political defection. The statement of purpose of the amendment bill stated, the evil of political defection has been a matter of national concern. If it is not combated, it is likely to undermine the very foundations of our democracy and the principles which sustained it. The amendment penalized individual MPs, MLAs from changing political parties after election by expelling them from the legislature. But if one-third banded together to join another party, they would be protected. The amendment also shielded two-thirds of MPs MLAs from merging with another party. It also made the Speaker of the legislature the deciding authority on defection. During a parliament debate in 1985, MPs like the socialist leader Madhu Dandavate expressed concern over the impact the amendment could have on the office of the Speaker. In 1987, a few years after the passing of the amendment to prevent defection, Goa became a state. The one-third split provision and the partition conduct of Goa speakers led to 10 changes in government over 12 years. 7 of these governments lasted only for 2 years. The parliament amended the constitution in 2003 and removed the split provision, but the merger clause remained. While debating the amendment, MPs argued for the deletion of the merger provision. One said, merger is a hiatus and a respectable name for defection, but their suggestions had no impact. In the outgoing Goa Assembly 2017 to 2022, using the provision, two-thirds of the Congress MLAs merged with the ruling BJP. In another poll-bound state, Manipur, the conduct of the Speaker is deciding defection has invited criticism from the Supreme Court. The late American Supreme Court Justice Anthony Scalia had once said, when history demonstrates that one of the court's decisions has been a truly horrendous mistake, it is comforting to look back and realize that at least some of the justice saw the danger clearly and gave voice. Often eloquent voice to their concern, his observation is accurate in the context of our constitutional history. There is some consolation that our constitution framers and later members of parliament identified and highlighted the concern in our founding document. The question is, in the 73rd year of our constitution, how many of those will we rectify? Beyond the report for Shakti TV USA.